Welcome, everyone, once again to the Green Truck Records podcast. I'm your host, Cayle Hunter. With me is the other half of the amazing rock and roll supergroup, Cobra Hunter, Mr. Shelby Cobra himself. Welcome.
What's cracking?
This is episode 6. And today we're going to talk about the first cover that we're going to release. And if I'm not mistaken, the first cover that we recorded, I'm not sure about that. Maybe we'll get into that.
I think so.
It's Ramblin Gamblin Man by the one and only Mr. Bob Seger.
This is the Bob Seger system.
Oh, the Bob Seger system. You're right. Not Bob Seger solo, right? But it's about the Bob Seger system.
Pre-unit Silver Bullet Band.
Oh, Silver Bullet Band. Dang, good pull.
Sure, it had some of the same members, but yeah, this is a little more early.
So I think you probably know more. I mean, you know more about this song. So how this one started was you just, sometimes you'll do that. You just be like, oh, check this song out. You know, like send me an Apple Music link or a Spotify link or whatever you use. And then I'll go listen to it and get like super hyped, you know, and just like, sometimes you're just listening to it. Sometimes you'll send me stuff to maybe reference for stuff that we're working on, you know, like, hey, this band used a fiddle. I think we could use it like that, or the way their guitar sounds or whatever. But I think you just sent me this one day, like the song rocks.
Yeah, dude, this one right here has got, talk about a song having soul. This thing grabs you by the boo-boo right out the gate. And that first drum beat, it sounds like the dude swinging sledgehammers at his drum kit, like it's, you know, curling up your speakers. It's so dope. And I don't remember if it's got a cowbell in there or not, but it needs one. It really does if it doesn't.
I think you're absolutely right.
Re-record, do again.
Yeah, say if it's not, there will be a cowbell on the recording that people hear at the end of this. I'll just say that.
This thing, you know, this song was just good right out the gate. And the first time I ever heard it, I'm like, oh man, this one.
It's so good. And I was actually wondering, because the beat is kind of like simple but groovy, I was wondering at the time if that's how they started jamming this song. Was the drummer was just like, and Seger was like, yeah. Keep that going.
Keep it up.
And then just, because it's only 4 chords. I mean, the whole thing is pretty simple. It is very soulful, to use your word, because it really is kind of a loop, but Seger just jamming over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Singer just like not good looking. Ha, ha. You know, it sounds like he's just like grooving the whole time and he's feeling it. And I love that. So I wonder if it's just built on the drum beat. Oh,
I guarantee. I would bet. You could use that drum beat and write a whole brand new song and still have a badass song to it. You know what I mean? It just drives.
Dude, that's a great point. I might just rip it off. No, I interrupted you. I'm sorry. What were you saying? It's a cocky song? Because I think...
it's in the same vein as like Smokestack Lightning and stuff like that, where they just like, I'm the baddest around. You know what I mean? I come from, you know... I can't remember the words right off the gate right now. I was born lonely down by the riverside, learn to spin a fortune wheel and throw dice. He's just bragging all the time. You know what I mean? Cool.
And I feel like that beat and just that bass line, the do 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 do. Like he heard that and he was like, check me out. I'm going to talk about myself for a minute. You know what I mean? And I got to be honest, if he played it for me, I would be thinking the same thing. Like, let me brag about myself for a bit because this is tight.
Well, and it's also got the... It makes you just want to be like, yeah.
It does. And like, it's honestly so strange to me too, because when we did it and I was learning the instrumentation, I was waiting for when does it change? You know, what do they do? No. It kind of just does the same thing. And Seger just makes it like a soul song because, you know, there's that little chorus, the Ramblin Gamblin Man chorus or whatever. But you'd be shocked how little the instrumentation changes between the verse and the chorus. So I felt like he was just like, no, just keep going. I'll make it a song. You know, sing this part with me.
Tell me if you believe in this. The majority of this song is that drum beat in a Wurlitzer keyboard or a Rhodes keyboard or something. It doesn't have tons of distortion and tons of distorted guitar, but it rocks so damn hard. You know what I mean? And like, I've heard bands cover it before with tons of distortion, and it doesn't do the same justice, I think.
Yeah, so I only recorded, I think, one guitar track. You know, me, I'll record 2 to 4 to 6 guitar tracks sometimes, depending, just wanting like a big wall of guitars. And on this one, I think I just used like a Telecaster, not like cranked up, not like going crazy. I mean, it has like that old school kind of distortion to it, but it's actually kind of buried. There's one, and then I
Yeah.
did an acoustic. I think I did an acoustic track or whatever that you can barely hear, but it's not a guitar song like at all. It's that keyboard, the drums, the keyboard, and the bass. And the bass literally doesn't change one time.
Oh, it's just the same thing over and over.
It doesn't change one time. As a matter of fact, by the time I was done recording it, I was like, why didn't I just record one phrase and then loop this piece? I just wasted all my time trying to get it right.
Loop this piece.
Yeah, like what was I doing? But then it kind of made me feel, even though I'm recording the whole thing on a computer, it did make me feel like connected to the old school, and they had to play a track all the way through. And I'm guessing that particular track, they did all the instruments and maybe even the vocals just all the way through as a group is my guess.
I was lucky enough to see him. I think he was 79 when I saw him. It was one of the last concerts. We
Dang.
saw him at the Shoreline, and he did that, played that one live, and it's still a barn burner, dude. It's still dope. So good.
It's so good, man.
Okay.
It makes you. It also forces you to sing along too, because you want to be like, Gambling Man, like you want to sing along. You know what I mean? When he sings,
singers going, Gambling Man.
So good, dude. It's so good. Oh, sorry. What were you to say?
No, I was gonna say because I recorded the vocals at my house. You gave me the background music to it, and I was doing all the and all the oohs and ahs and little cocky struts. And I go, hey, dude, I did a lot of those things. So, like, you could dial it back or take a bunch of them out. And you wrote me very matter of factly, keeping them all in, every single one of them. You're like, I will be taking nothing out, dude. All of
I
those
will be deleting nothing. I will be deleting absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, I'm about to copy and add more.
I mean, it's that whole James Brown thing where the singer's just feeling himself. You know what I mean?
That's what I think is so cool about. Now, we've talked about technology, right? How technology has enabled us to even do this because we're never in the same room, right? And so we wouldn't be able to have a band or this song if the prerequisite was us being in the same place at the same time. So we rely on technology a lot. But that's why the older recordings sometimes, man, just the group in a room grooving with the singer feeling himself and feeling that live energy and all that stuff. I bet if I was going to guess, I bet they played that song 2 or 3 times and kept the best one, and that was it. And there's just a vibe about it. And I do miss that. Now, again, you and I can start a band for we have an interface and a microphone, and all of a sudden we can play some music. So that's really cool. The way they did it requires a whole recording studio setup and tens of thousands of dollars worth of mics and all of that. But man, there's something to be said for just like getting in a room and jamming like that, because the vibe on that song is elite, I think.
Now, okay, follow me on this one. This is one of those songs because it is kind of a beat. It's an early cut from Bob Seger, you know what I mean? And I don't think it's on a lot of his greatest hit albums. Might be, but I'm not sure if you're going to find it on every one. But this is one of those cover songs. People will go, "Oh, I thought that was yours." And like I love there's 2 compliments that I love getting when you do a cover song. First is that usually people know the damn song and they go, "That's just dope," and they turn it up as loud as they could possibly go, and they're like, "You guys did a great job." And then you get the people that haven't heard the original song, and they're just like, "This song is dope. I thought you did it." And then they get to go back and hear the original, and they go, "Oh my goodness, it's even better."
Yep.
You know
and then the original's always better. But whatever, we're gonna leave that. That's not here or there.
But no, I thought I thought Chris Keane did a great job of making it sound like our own and still have that like vintage flavor to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. It's got like our more modern touches, but the way that he mixed it and put it all together, it's like he used that original as like a touchstone to say like, hey,
Yeah.
let's not completely make this like a modern shiny recording. Let's like leave some of that dirt, that there's just, I don't know, some of the dust that comes with those old recordings that is just so cool. And to me,
Yeah.
maybe you confuse that for soul, but I don't think so. I think it's just all part of it. They had soul, they recorded it on tape, and it just captured a vibe. And Chris did a good job of saying like, hey, let's at least keep that reference in there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
really cool. Also, hey, in his later years, Bob Seger, Michael McDonald, could you tell them apart?
Probably not.
They look the exact. It's like sometimes I see pictures of Seeger and I would think it was Michael McDonald.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
So here's a funny story about that whole Seeger concert that I saw, right? It was the first time my wife, Cayle, ever got to see Bob Seger. And Bob Seger comes out. Mind you, he's 79 years old. He comes out and he's got his Adidas breakaway pants on, his matching Adidas striped shirt, his headband, you know what I mean? And my wife's kind of got like this look on her face like, and I said, what's the matter, baby? She goes, Bob Seger. It's rock and roll. I was expecting some bell-bottom pants, maybe a leather jacket or something like that. I said, he's 79 years old. I'm going to close your eyes. You're not going to miss a beat. And the guy, he sounds just as good as he ever did. You know what I mean? But it was really funny that she had a picture in her head. And I was like, you're lucky they didn't wheel his ass out here in a recliner chair. You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
that's where I'd be if I was 79 years old.
I
And he
guarantee they
still killed it.
interrupted him watching like, some sort of crime show like Law and Order, and they were like, "Hey, Grandpa, you got a show tonight?" And he's like, "Okay, all right, okay, all right. Oh, give me some coffee or something. Let's go." I guarantee it. But I will say that he fits in that, and I think we've talked about this before, maybe on the podcast, but maybe not. But I love, and it truly inspires me, watching like old school rockers and just performers of all kind, but I always call them rockers, but just old school rockers who came up playing live all the time. And that's how they separated themselves. That's how they got signed. That's how they played in bars forever, and then they got a deal and they were on tour forever. And it was all about the live show. And
Mm-hmm.
seeing those people now, they've played so many shows and so long, and live is still their best medium. Doesn't matter if they're 65, 75, 85. When the lights come on, they cannot have a bad show, dude. They just,
Yeah.
it's so, they turn it on, they know where to go, and they just crush it, man. It's so inspiring to me. Like the first time I saw ZZ Top, dude, Billy Gibbons looked like a skin stretched over a skeleton. He just looked like all frail and kind of haggard. And I was like, dang, is he going to make it? Soon as the lights come on, dude, he's out there pointing at people,
Oh,
just
yeah.
ripping it. Guitar sounds as good as ever. His vocals sound great, and they just knocked the place out. They knocked everyone dead. And he's not as old, he's old, but he's not like in his 80s or whatever. But he's getting up there. But those old rockers, man, they inspire me to this day. I love seeing good old rock, people that are still doing it.
Heck yeah.
I love it. It
We had talked
inspires me
about this
literally every
before.
time.
You mentioned Michael McDonald, but we talked about, I watched an interview with him and they'd asked him about the state of music and stuff. What do you feel? And he goes, well, he goes, nobody buys music anymore. They just don't. It's just a fact. Once you got your MP3s and Apple iTunes, Spotify, music just comes to you. He goes, that's the bad part. The good part of that is you're going to see a bunch of old bands playing live again because you can't make music off just doing one greatest hits CD a year and cashing the checks. He's like, you got to get out there, sell merchandise, play to the people. And he goes, for me, I love doing that because I thrive off the live music. He goes, some people don't look good in leather pants anymore when you're 70-some years old, so it's going to get interesting. I think it
I
was
love
that
that.
was when like Motley Crue was coming out, and I think he was making a reference to that.
Oh,
It
I
might be rough.
guarantee he was just like, well, they're milking it. All right, good for them. And a Foreigner was actually coming through and on their, I think it's like their final tour they're saying or whatever. And I wasn't able to go, and I was so bummed because I had a feeling that they were going to be that, like
Yeah.
they were an old rock band that, not old as compared to Bob Seger, but still, pretty old. And I guarantee they're just going to be rockers as soon as the lights come on and they start playing you know, their hits, I guarantee they still rip it and they still have that same vibe, the same energy. And so,
Right.
yeah, I try to
There's
see as many
something.
of those as I can.
The Bob Seger is along the same lines. I feel as like just a good rockin' party bar band. You know what I mean? Like George Thorogood is another one where it's like just no apologies, dude. We're gonna go out there and just you're gonna dig it. You're gonna shake your ass. Like I would be happy to the day that I died if I just had a bar band that hit it big, where you play every bike show and every bar and every whatever you wanted to do, and people caught on to it. You know what I mean?
I I couldn't agree more. I think Thurgood's a really
Huey's
good one.
another one.
Oh, and there's another. That's another one. I saw him at the Sacramento Fair. I didn't know he was playing.
Yeah.
And you know, we're huge Huey fans. I didn't know he was playing. So we go in to the whatever it is, the state fair or whatever, and I was living in Sacramento. And I was like, oh yeah, they have the big tent set up. And I was like, who's the musical act this year? Thinking it was going to be like Twisted Sisters. I don't even know who I thought, just like somebody funny. And somebody said, oh, it's Huey Lewis in the News. And I like laughed because I thought they were joking, you know, because I knew I was like a big fan. I was like, all right, no, but for real, who's playing? They're like, no, there's a sign right there. It says Huey Lewis is playing. I had no tickets or anything. It sold out, dude. We snuck in there. We got up super close and he crushed. He
Oh
crushed.
yeah.
Dude, I couldn't believe it. That was the first time I got to see Huey. I did see him later with Eddie Money, and Eddie Money was barely kind of hanging on it there at the end. He was another one of those guys, dude, but he was still a
Nah, he's
rocker.
good too. I caught him
Yep.
in Vallejo at the fair, and yeah, he still kills it.
He
The money
killed it,
man.
dude. But it was him and Huey Lewis, and actually Eddie Money smoked Huey Lewis, and Huey Lewis was the headliner.
No
It
kidding.
was, yeah, I couldn't believe it. And
That probably felt good for Eddie.
I bet it did because it was, you know, towards the end there before he passed, but he couldn't hit the high notes anymore. So like 2 Tickets to Paradise, he would have his backing band, so he would just prompt the crowd the whole time, and he'd go, I got two
Bob Seger
tickets
was
to...
doing that too, but it didn't make a damn difference. Everybody sang it for him.
Nobody cared. Everybody was like pumped because, you
Cares.
know, he had a tight band. The song is massive, and Eddie Money's still Eddie Money.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
he's just a rocker. That's why when you sent me this song and it was Bob Seger, he's just a rocker, dude. He's an old school rocker, and we had
We could
to...
have gone through. I could have went through the catalog and picked. You can close your eyes and pick a Bob Seger song, and you're gonna have a number one. You know what I mean? That you could play, and it'll be badass. But this one you just don't hear a lot, and it's just kind of like no frills, raw rock and roll. So I always dug this one the most.
That's why when you sent it to me, I think just to like, oh, check this one out, I immediately went in and started making the cover of it because it wasn't one that everybody knew already. You know, like we got tonight. Like it wasn't one of those. It was just like it was just a rocker, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a
trucks.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I think it inspired me to say like, hey, let's do a cover of this one, and that was as a first one. Now that I remember, because we do have other covers, and one that I'm thinking of specifically that'll come out later. And that one we made a little bit more our own, tuned it down a little bit, you know, changed some things. I think like try to make the drum sound really, really big and all that stuff. But this one was more true. It was our first one, and it was more true to the original, I think, because the original is just so good.
I've always kind of, I mean, ever since that Bleed Rock Trio band where we did a lot of the covers and stuff, we either tried to go to stay fairly true to the feel or the music itself, or go crazy and make it our own. You know what I mean? Like where we used to do Secret Agent Man and stuff, but just do that super heavy drop in the middle of it and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to just hear it. It's kind of like somebody who paints photorealistic paintings. At some point you go, well, why didn't you just take a picture? Because you can't tell the difference. You know what I'm saying? But you got to sprinkle a little bit of you on there, and it makes it interesting. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting too about the way you and I have tackled covers. I don't think we ever talk about like, hey, do you want to keep this one true, or do we want to do this one? It's just kind of, we know ourselves and what we do best. And
yeah,
we've kind of just like, oh, do you know this song? Let's play that one. And it either comes out as a more us flavored, or it comes out as like, we play it straight up like the original way, you know,
Yeah.
like that Counting Crows, Hard to Handle. I think we've just pretty much never talked about, but we just played it straight.
Black Crows.
Oh,
A little
Counting
bit
Crows. Oh
different.
my God. Blasphemy. Dear God. Please don't roast me. Oh, dude. No,
Counting Crows is good.
no, Counting Crows are cool, but like confusing those two, that's just that's a little too far. But yeah, the Black Crows, like we played that one straight when we covered it. But then yeah, those other ones like with Shaken by Eddie Money, we used to do that one. I feel like we always made that one our own. You know, we kind of took
Well,
that
you know,
one
your
on.
Black Crows reference, Hard to Handle, that's an Otis Redding song. So if you've ever heard the original, of that one, it's not even close, but they're both amazing on their own merits. You know what I mean? It's one of those songs that's timeless, and no matter how you play it, you could probably do it reggae, it'd still be damn good.
Guarantee it would still kill. That's what's funny though. I remember thinking that like, so Otis Redding did it, and then Black Crows did their "We're Gonna Make It Our Own" cover, and then we played it straight to their version.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you know, it's kind of weird how
cover
that
song
stuff,
of their cover song.
yeah. It's like we didn't do the original one. We did the cover of the cover, which I thought was interesting. And but honestly, if you didn't bring this song to me, I never would have covered it. I probably wouldn't have barely listened to it. So I was really stoked because as soon as I heard it, I was like, this song absolutely rules. And now I get to have a cover song, and it'll be, you know, I listen to it sometimes just on my own because I love the song, and I'm so stoked that you and I got to do our own version of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's such a fun song, and it's so cool that I wouldn't have another avenue to do that if it wasn't for you.
Well, you're welcome,
man.
Cayle.
I love you, man. Thank you.
Hey, on a side note, just to the audience, I love deep cuts and finding new music. So if you ever find something you think I would dig, send it my direction because I love that stuff. Chris Huber does it. You do it. You know, they'll just send songs every once in a while, and 9 times out of 10, I'll research it if I dig it out because man, there's a lot of music out there that I ain't heard all of it yet, and I want every single one.
Yeah, especially people that know your taste, and they're like, "Oh, if he likes this, he's gonna love that." And
yeah,
sometimes I think it's really fun when I send you something, and you're like, "Oh, I love this one. Have you heard this one?" You know what I mean? Like you are already there.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool. It's like, "Oh, I love that one." But yeah, the ones where you know what I like and I know what you like, and you send me one that I wasn't keen on already, that I wasn't hip to, and you send me that, and I find like a new favorite song. Like I love that. I hope to find my new favorite band and my new favorite song when I'm like 55 or 60, you know, because I'm just constantly listening to new shit, and keeps me fresh, dude. You know, I love music, new music. If I can find an old song but it's brand new to me, it feels the same. I get all inspired all over again.
So you're going to play this song after this podcast, right? I think we were getting on that pattern. Good.
Yep.
I just highly advise everyone to listen to ours. No, I'm just kidding. Listen to the song and look up Bob Seger system and listen to the original too, because you'll dig it. It's bad. It's bad.
It is bad. It's awesome. And at the end, I think the song on the recording, we tried to do it this way too. It just kind of stops. It just kind of peters out. There's not like some big grand finale. It was just like we had this little groove, and that was a fun moment, and we captured it, and it just happened to be a badass song, you know?
Yeah, it might have even done that whole 70s fade out, like where they just rock to infinity. And they're like, yeah, they rocked so long, we just had to turn them down because, you know, they're probably still rocking somewhere in the abyss.
I do love the 70s fade out because I was always curious, like, how long did they keep it going? You know, did they just keep it going? You know, I always wonder that.
We ran
like,
out of tape before these guys ran out of rock. You know what I mean?
Yep. They just kept going and eventually we were just like, I guess we gotta, you know, turn it down. But I always wonder at the end of the fade out.
These guys to knock it off.
No one. Nope. Let them go. They're in. Just let them finish. Let them go. But I find myself wondering that all the time on the 70s fade out. Like instead of ending a song, they just fade it out. Like, did they get it to zero right at the moment the band stopped anyway? Or did the band keep going? Because I've done, and you and I have done a couple of fade outs, and I think they've been different. It hasn't been just like we stopped it right at the end. Sometimes it was like, oh, we'll just keep jamming for a while. And it's kind of I always think about that when the band does that, especially, you know, the old records, like did they just go on for another couple minutes jamming and they just picked a spot? Or was that kind of the end, but the end sounded shitty? So they're like, hey, let's just kind of get it to 0 by that time.
I got 45 minutes on this album.
That's
I'm
true.
gonna
They
have
were
like
kind
3
of,
other songs besides this one.
they were limited to the songs they could put on the side A and side B and all that until the CD came out, and then extended that a little bit. But yeah, I forget about that. That's why like constraints, I think they're good sometimes. Like I was watching the Beatles do their Get Back thing or whatever, that whole thing, which is really, really cool. But they talk about how in the early days they would go in and they would have one day, or they would have 4 hours, and like you have to get a song, it's got to be fully tracked in these 4 hours, and that's how they did their early albums. And then when they had their own studio and their manager died, they did Get Back, and it was kind of a mess. They couldn't really get it together. They were so big and they were famous, and they didn't have the constraints of like somebody saying, hey, here's what needs to be done, and you need to have it done by then, and all that stuff. And it was kind of a mess. Now, because they're the Beatles, it ended up being killer. They write like just awesome songs, and it ends up being cool. But the constraints of like, we only have so much time in the studio, or we only have so much time on this record, so we've got to keep it tight. We've got to do this. Those constraints, sometimes they feel annoying at the time, but I think they do spark something in you. When you have those limitations where you got to find a way to make something awesome anyway. I feel like sometimes it can spark something really cool in you.
Yeah, I work good under pressure.
Yeah,
I mean, or people like you do it a lot just naturally. You'll send me something, see what you can do with this, and that's almost a challenge. You know what I mean? I like the troubleshooting part of that too.
So I equate that to you and I in that our challenge is we're not together all the time. So that's our limitation. So how can we make sure we still have a vibe, that it still feels like a band, it still feels like us together, because it feels like that for me. But you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like, oh, I send you stuff and then you send, it feels kind of like two parts stuck on top of each other. It feels like cohesive to me. And I feel like it sounds cohesive, but it's that limitation that I think has sparked. That's why I try not to give you too much instruction. I'm just like, hey, see what you're doing with this. Cause that's what we would do if we were in a room. You would just kind of like let it fly out, and then we would have a vibe, and it would connect with us. And I think that's our limitation. And that's why one of the reasons that I'm so proud of the music that we've made is like that limitation, I think, sparked us to get better at recording music, get better at our stuff, talk more, get better at our communication, which is awesome. Yeah. But then also we found a way to make it have a vibe, like still feels like a band to me.
Yeah, it is a band, Cayle.
No, I know, but that band feel. It's not like, well, I just send files to this jack off over, in.
Well, that part's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that is true. But so those limitations are cool, and they. I think the challenge brings out the best in the right people when you got the right attitude. You like the challenge. I like the challenge. I like the pressure when you're like, dude, give me something like this. I'm like, okay, here, that's a fun challenge for me.
For Christmas, every time I open my email and see something coming from you, I'm like, oh, here we go. Let's see what he came up with. You know what I mean? I mean, some of the funnest things is like, all right, any notes? And you're like, yeah, we need to make it bigger, or whatever you did was terrible. Let's try again. I've never done those yet. Thank you. But,
no, I mean,
it's always interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun. I love the creative process. And I love it with you because you are so good at the things that I'm not good at. The lyrics, the choruses, like writing hooks and all that stuff. You're so good at that. So whenever I get something from you, it sparks me up because I know that I couldn't do it on my own. Like I know for sure. And so like for me, I'm just like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And then so it gives us that energy. And I think that translates to our recordings, because I try to record something right away. Like if you give me a vibe or something, I try to record it right away, because that's what we would do, or that's my way of manufacturing the energy that we would have if we were in the same room. Is like, I try to record it when we're hot, like we're in the mode to talk about the song and work on the song. So I try to go get it done. And I think it translates to the recordings, like where they sound like they have the energy of a group instead of me sitting in my garage and you sitting where you are. Is this where you record vocals right there, by the way?
It's about 5 feet away. Yeah.
Oh.
I got my big dog sitting over here. Usually I got a wiener dog and my wife sewing. I don't think there's a single vocal track on any song that we've recorded that doesn't have some type of a dog barking in the background if you listen close enough.
Anybody who listens to this, if you can mark on the YouTube, like, oh, right here at 137, you can hear something.
Found it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the Easter eggs we leave for people. I do that though.
Everything I touch and everything I do is perfectly wonky. So unless you can embrace the wonkiness, you're just going to frustrate the shit out of yourself forever. You know what I mean? It's kind of like having one part of your classic car with Bondo on it, because it means you worked on it yourself. You know what I mean? It's okay.
Yep. It's all right, man. Those scars are good. I like those. Those imperfections are good. As a matter of fact, there's sometimes when I'm recording background vocals for some, one of our songs or something, and my dad fridge will kick on, like my beer fridge here in the back, it'll kick on and I can hear it. And I'm just like, I'm leaving it. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like it's real. It's funny. I don't know. Like nobody else will hear it except for maybe Chris Keat when he mixes it, and he'll be like, oh my God, you guys, are you kidding me?
You end up messing around and making rock history like Leonard Skinner that would turn it up. That was just him yelling to the homeboy and to turn up his ear.
But it felt the reason that it felt authentic. That's why, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, hey, I know I have infinite hard drive space and I could keep doing it. But when those things happen, I look at them as almost like a gift. It gives it a chance to feel real. It's not like all sanitized and everything. And so, yeah, I'll leave in. Sometimes my daughter will come walking in the door mid-take and I'm just like, all right, I'll leave it. Or something, the fridge kicks on, the AC kicks on. During this podcast, somebody was mowing a lawn and I'm just like, hey, we're going to go through it because that's the real deal. But during songs, sometimes I'll do that too. Like during takes, it's actually, I think they only mow lawns around here. Like there's like some sort of, it's like some sort of sensor. As soon as I activate the microphone and I hit record, then it's like, oh,
we turn the red studio light on outside and they go, oh, it's mowing time.
Yeah. Now, do you have a loud truck you can start? Do you have a race car you need to work on? You got a chopper you're working on? Now's the time. Cayle's recording. Let's go. I feel like your wife and kids have that too. I mean, mine do. Like as soon as I hit record, they're just like, oh, I need Cayle for something. Hold on.
Gives you the test you can handle. You know what I mean? It's all good.
I mean, we love our ladies. This is it's just part of our process.
Oh, hey, babe, I'm going to go downstairs and record some vocals real quick. Good, because I was thinking that would be a good time to take every dog that we own and come downstairs and party. Absolutely. That's what I was thinking when I said that I'm going to go downstairs and I need total silence. That's exactly what I had in mind.
I love you so much. So much. Oh, I love this. So that's our process. That's how we do things. Listen to Ramblin Gamblin Man, originally by Bob Seger. Bob Seger's System. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Seger's
Bob Seger System, yeah.
Bob Seger's System. Listen to it after this. Tell us what you think. And if there's another song that we should be hip to that we're not, or we should cover, let us know. If you got my number or Shelby's number, text me. But if not, just leave it in the comments. And we love new cover songs. So let us know. Thanks for listening. This has been episode 6, the Green Truck Records podcast. Thanks, y'all.
We gone.